Have you ever sensed that someone's thinking about you with an intensity that defies explanation, even though everything they do suggests otherwise? That quiet knowing that settles deep in your chest, that inexplicable moment when your phone buzzes just as their name crosses your mind. It's not your imagination playing tricks. Carl Jung spent his entire career exploring the hidden corridors of the human mind and uncovered something remarkable. Suppressed emotions don't simply vanish. They transform into symbols, into subtle behaviors, into gestures that speak volumes to anyone paying attention. Today, we're diving into a forgotten corner of psychology, one that reveals invisible connections, unspoken feelings, and the whispers of our unconscious that tell us more than words ever could. Jung believed passionately in one truth. Whatever we bury in our conscious awareness projects itself even more powerfully from our unconscious depths. The harder someone works to deny they miss you, the more obvious it becomes to those who've learned to read between the lines. We're not talking about wishful thinking or romantic fantasies here, but genuine psychological patterns that repeat with stunning consistency across countless human stories. The unconscious speaks in symbols, Jung explained, revealing itself in unexpected ways. An averted glance, a laugh that stops too soon, a word that slips out unguarded. When someone has loved deeply and then tries to suffocate that love, their shadow, that inner realm where unacknowledged desires live, inevitably takes control during vulnerable moments. It's precisely when the ego weakens that truth seeps through like water finding cracks in stone. Have you dreamed about them just when you thought you'd finally moved on? Felt their presence in places they've never been with you? Received messages that seemed charged with their energy even though they came from someone else entirely? What most people dismiss as coincidence, Jung recognized as synchronicity, manifestations of the collective unconscious where souls interact beyond rational understanding. In contexts of repressed love, these synchronicities become bridges attempting to reconnect what the mind insists on separating. These signs aren't limited to dreams and intuitions either. They appear concretely. That person who watches your social media stories without ever commenting, who mysteriously appears in your usual spots as if by accident, who brings up topics only you two ever discussed, but never addresses you directly. For Jung, these aren't random occurrences, but covert expressions of the unconscious, small acts that accidentally reveal what the rational mind desperately tries to hide. When someone misses you while fighting that longing, an internal war erupts that inevitably shows externally. Jung termed this the battle between ego and shadow. The ego, your conscious personality, attempts to maintain consistency, protect self-image, and honor the decision to stay distant. But the shadow, fueled by repressed emotions, demands expression even in twisted or contradictory ways. This creates confusing behavior patterns, sudden warmth followed by inexplicable coldness, prolonged silence broken by gestures of intimacy they refuse to name. One of the most telling signs appears in body language. When you finally meet, even briefly by chance, bodies speak before mouths do. They might avoid eye contact, yet their pupils dilate in your presence. They maintain rigid posture, but their feet point directly at you. They speak from a distance, yet their voice carries warmth that contradicts their words. Like the unconscious itself, the body cannot lie. Jung also described the phenomenon of symbolic return, when someone unable to face feelings directly surrounds themselves with elements connecting them to you symbolically. They adopt interests you once shared, use phrases you coined, or seek relationships with people who somehow remind them of you. These aren't fully conscious choices, but manifestations of a psyche trying to re-establish lost connection through imperfect substitutions that ease the emptiness. Sometimes the unconscious speaks through conflict. That person may seem critical, distant, even irritated with you without apparent reason. Jung taught that hatred often disguises repressed love that's lost its way. Emotional intensity, even appearing as rejection, can signal that the bond remains alive, that beneath the surface lies an unresolved struggle between wanting to forget and needing to remember. Understanding these mechanisms isn't about chasing ghosts or excusing harmful behavior. It's about honoring your intuition, because just as they may be repressing their longing, you might be denying your own. True emotional wisdom isn't guessing what others feel, but finding peace with what you feel without requiring external validation. Jung's depth psychology offers no easy answers, but it provides powerful maps for navigating the soul's complexities. When we learn to read the unconscious language in ourselves and others, we discover that love stories don't always end with goodbye. Sometimes they continue in silence, in gestures nobody else notices, in unspoken dreams, in subtle spaces where hearts speak without voices. Perhaps something remains worth hearing. That's where your real power begins, in interpreting the invisible, in courageously holding on to what others deny, in choosing to heal even when the other person won't name it. Because the soul that understands also sets itself free. The soul that understands also sets itself free, yet sometimes freedom means recognizing connections that refuse to die, even in silence. The fourth sign emerges as whisper rather than shout, subtle yet profoundly intimate, because it requires no witnesses or visible evidence. It's a presence you feel in your bones, in the quiet murmur of your soul. If you've woken with someone's name pounding in your chest without explanation, if you sense someone dreaming of you from across the distance, it's possible that somewhere in the shared unconscious they've spoken yours. Because as Jung affirmed, what the soul unites, even silence cannot fully separate. Jung viewed dreams not as random mental debris, but as privileged portals into our deepest selves, each image an encrypted message from the unconscious, truths wrapped in symbols beyond rational control. When someone dreams of you repeatedly while suppressing all emotional expression toward you during waking hours, this isn't mere memory, it's an involuntary confession of the soul. If they've ever mentioned casually that you appeared in their dreams, you're witnessing pure truth leaking through. Jung taught that recurrent dreams about specific people represent the unconscious attempting to process what couldn't be resolved consciously, what remained unsaid, postponed, or denied. These impulses don't limit themselves to nighttime either. During daylight, that same energy surfaces as intrusive thoughts, memories of you erupting without permission, breaking through precisely when they're trying to focus elsewhere. If they've ever mentioned offhandedly that something reminded them of you or that they relived a shared moment, don't dismiss it as small talk. You're hearing a disguised confession. The unconscious always finds cracks through which to reveal itself, especially when emotional charges run deep. Jung called this psychic compensation, a fundamental law of the soul, where the more we repress feelings, the stronger their alternative expression becomes. It's like pressing down on an underground spring. Eventually, it finds its course. When someone insists on indifference while their mind betrays them with memories that jolt unexpectedly, you're witnessing authentic evidence of a bond still alive, even if hidden in shadows. The fifth sign manifests as what Jung termed inverted projection, one of the most revealing yet hardest to identify workings of the unconscious. This occurs when someone who misses you deeply but cannot admit it begins projecting onto you what they refuse to see in themselves. They may insist it's you who hasn't moved on, that you're still hung up, clinging to something already finished, but in reality they're describing themselves. Jung maintained that what most annoys us in others, or what we criticize in them, often mirrors what we refuse to accept in our own depths. When someone insists you're the one who hasn't let go, when they repeat emphatically that everything's over or everyone's moved on, that repetition isn't statement, but defense. When something is truly resolved, it needs neither justification nor constant restatement. The emotional intensity with which they declare it betrays precisely the opposite, that they're not at peace with what they feel. This represents the paradoxical nature of inverted projection. In attempting to free themselves, they reveal what binds them. They point at you but observe themselves. They accuse you but hide their own reflection. The The sixth sign emerges as one of the most enigmatic yet poetic in Jungian thought: meaningful synchronicities. Jung defined these as coincidences lacking obvious logical cause yet laden with deep personal significance. When someone misses you intensely and their unconscious remains active, unexpected encounters, signals, or crossings occur that seem too precise for mere chance. Perhaps they appear just when you're experiencing something emotionally significant. Maybe they re-enter your life precisely when you've been thinking of them most, or you encounter them somewhere neither had reason to be. They might claim coincidence, insist they didn't know you'd be there, which could be true for their conscious mind. But the unconscious, Jung argued, influences our decisions in ways we don't grasp, guiding routes, schedules, words, and gestures without awareness. These synchronicities aren't simple accidents, but movements of the soul, silent reconnection attempts from deep places, unspoken responses to calls no one voiced, yet both heard. These shouldn't be dismissed as superstition, but recognized as manifestations of what Jung called the collective unconscious, a shared field where psyches intertwine beyond time and space. When life arranges meetings with astonishing precision, don't take it lightly. The other person's unconscious may be creating pathways without their knowledge to draw closer, to heal, or simply to keep alive the bond their conscious mind denies. Finally, the seventh sign arrives as perhaps the most powerful and transformative personal change inspired by your absence. Jung developed the concept of individuation, the process by which people become their true selves by integrating parts they've projected onto others. When someone misses you deeply but cannot approach or speak it aloud, they often channel that energy into silent yet meaningful transformation. They may develop interest in things you loved, adopt habits they once criticized, or frequent places that held special meaning for you. This change isn't superficial imitation or nostalgic attempt to reclaim something lost. Rather, it's an unconscious way of integrating aspects of you that resonated deeply within their soul. Jung explained that when someone transforms us, when they leave authentic emotional marks, they don't disappear simply by leaving.
They become part of us.
If that person has visibly changed since your departure, if they've adopted attitudes, values, or passions that were once yours, you're witnessing the invisible imprint of your presence. It's their way, conscious or not, of keeping you close. That personal transformation is fundamentally a silent tribute, acknowledging that your influence was so profound it became part of their evolution. In Jungian terms, it's the result of symbolic integration of the other. When such integration happens genuinely, it's the clearest sign that you were and continue to be significant in their journey. When someone changes because of what you awakened in their interior, they do so from a place transcending mere desire or memory. They do so from the soul. Understanding these signs through Jung's lens lets us read the hidden gestures of those who've loved us in silence. It restores our power to see beyond appearances, to recognize that even at distance, the soul doesn't lie. People who touch our psyche deeply never fully leave us. As long as part of you lives on in another's transformation, your story continues beating even in what remains unsaid. When these 7 signals intertwine, appearing simultaneously across different moments and contexts, you're witnessing what Jung called a psychic constellation, a cluster of unconscious signs that, when joined, reveal emotional truth carefully repressed by the conscious mind. That person misses you not superficially or passingly, but with depth so intense even they cannot admit it without entering conflict with themselves. The fascinating and painfully human aspect of this dynamic exposes the dual structure of our psyche. The conscious will seek order and control, while the unconscious holds true bonds, unresolved pains, and unconfessed desires. When the unconscious cannot speak directly, it expresses through symbols, dreams, intrusive thoughts, chance encounters, and emotional reactions defying logic. It's an ancient language only those who've delved into their own depths can read, revealing that bonds touching our depths cannot simply be overcome. They transform, integrate, or pursue us. always leaving marks that prove even when the soul loses contact.
It never entirely loses the connection. Have you ever felt someone's hidden energy but couldn't prove it? You're not imagining things.
Carl Jung's psychology reveals the truth your intuition already knows. If this video helped you see the invisible signs, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep psychological insights. Share this with someone who needs to trust their gut feeling. Drop a comment telling us which sign resonated most with you. Let's decode the language of the soul together.